Thanks so much for your time. I am Pius Kojobaka. And look now at our stories. Tema Port has officially become a 24-hour operation, allowing importers to clear their goods even at 2 a.m. That's according to Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Kwesi-Sapong. Speaking to my colleague George Uyafe on PM Express Business Edition, the Commissioner said the GRA, working with the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority and other state agencies, has fully embraced President John Maham's flagship 24-hour economic program at the port.
Together working with the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority and other stakeholders, we have already embraced the 24-hour economy at the port. Indeed, before this program, customs already, as you know, works 24 hours at the port as well as
Was that the reality, Commissioner General?
Yes, our systems are already ready
for
24.
About people or what?
We were up for 24 hours already before the program was launched. What we are doing is that at the port, we work with other stakeholders. For example, when somebody is bringing goods, you need a standard board to be there. You need Food and Drugs Authority to be there. You need the EPA to be there. All of these institutions are being hooked and automated into our customs ICOM platform. So that way, all government institutions are then hub into the port operations under a 24-hour. Remember that at the port, we've within the President's vision is to ensure that agencies that were not within the one window, we've brought them on board so that we can fully implement the 24 hours at the port. So as we speak today, the 24-hour program is in earnest working at our Tema port.
So that's assurance given by the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority. Let's hear from the traders who really rely on imports for their trade. Joining us via Zoom is the Public Relations Officer of GUTA, Joseph Paddyy. Thank you so much, Joseph, for making time once again to speak to us here on Business Live. And you've heard the Commissioner. How would you describe trading activities at the ports? Has it officially become a 24-hour operation like you are being told? Tell us your experience.
To your viewers and your listeners. Yes. Before this announcement, we had a meeting with the Brigadier General when he made his intention clear to us that he want to make the Tema Port 24-hour, which was a welcome news. But there were some few questions we were asking, and they said some of the questions were like, are the other agencies on board? Are they also coming to be on board, especially with the banks, with our standard authority and then the EPA, where some products need to go through those systems. And he gave us that assurance that he's going to bring all of them on board. And if they have announced, why we welcome this idea is that, in trade facilitation, we talk about cost of doing business, and we talk about ease of doing business, and we talk about time of doing business. We talk about time of doing business. These are all the components that facilitate trade. So when the Commissioner General promises that they're going to make a 24-hour economy to the port, we all welcomed it. But some of the questions we're asking is that we're looking at security. How secure is the environment as we trade in the night? And we're looking about our lighting system. When street light. When you are traveling from Tema to Accra, you look at the motorway, how dark the place is. So these are some of the few things we're asking. And then we also spoke about the road from the port to Tema. And recent times, we've seen that road has been fixed by the Brigadier General. The road, the runabout that leads to the port, they've tarred the road, which we think he's doing very well. So we welcome this idea as it's coming on board. And we'll patronize it based on the few things that we see. If we are sure of our security in the night, why not? We're going to patronize it because it's going to give ease of doing business and the timing of doing business to be adhered to. So these are some of the few things we buy. It's a good news and it's a welcome news. We see how it works.
And these are questions you've posed to the Commissioner General. What has been his response?
Yeah, his response, there's always a starting point. And then they are doing everything possible. In recent times, even some of the trailers, they travel in the night. So when we talk of security, Ghana, we know we are secured. It's only some few hinges here and there. But in terms of security, everything is fine here. And they are going to beef up security, especially in the night, whilst we are trading. And we spoke about the lighting system, where street lights are not working, where traffic lights are not working, and they are doing everything possible to make sure sure that we have an environment that is free from hurt and harms. So these are some of the few things we put in. So as time goes on, as we started, we'll see how it works. But it's a good news where you can trade in the night, and any time of the day you can trade 24/7. Because especially those of us who clear containers, in the daytime, it brings congestion. When you go to Okanshi, you go to Kantamatu in the morning, especially on Thursday, especially those who clear their bills, the container or second-hand clothing, in the morning, it creates so much traffic and congestion. So if we can clear those products in the night, this is being practiced in one of the neighboring countries, especially in Togo. We did a research to Togo, and in Togo, no container moves in the morning. They move in the night. And when they are even moving, they have custom officers and police officers escorting them to their destination. So if we can have all these things in place, I think it's a good news for the business community.
It's a good news for the business community, say, but considering the issues you've raised, do you think that all things being equal, if it goes well, by way of, ensuring the smooth operations at the ports, what would this mean to the trading community, for example?
Yeah, what it means to the trading community is two things. What it means to the trading community and what it means for the government is that government will be able to maximize its profits or its revenue. And then the business community will also facilitate our trade in terms of time of doing business and ease of doing business, where traveling from Tema to Accra will take you so.
Too bad Joseph Paddy's line has frozen. We will try and re-establish contact with him once more for us to have a conversation on this, because there are other issues we want to look at as well. So we shall speak to Joseph Paddyy when he joins us once more for us to continue the conversation. But we want to stay all along at the port, because the first vice president of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, Nana Issah Pripra, has urged the Commissioner of Customs and the Director General of Ports to intensify the adaptability process of other institutions in fully operationalizing the 24-hour service at the ports. His comment follows the announcement by the GRA of clearing services at the port to operate a 24-hour service.
Other institutions like the FDA, the Ghana Standard Authority, and other agencies were not on the platform for the 24-hour operation, but now they are hooked onto it, and then icons to us, improve upon their system to accommodate all these additions. So that is what is happening at the port right now.
Great.
Definitely, there are some challenges which we can only do better, because some of the institutions were not ready for it, and then the beginning of everything, you face some kind of these challenges. So we only look up to the Commissioner of Customs and then the Director General of Ports. They are all military men, so we are hoping that they will put some kind of energy into the actions of the personnel to be abreast with whatever is happening right now at the port.
One of our lead stories, some civil society organizations are urging government to step up efforts in bringing the informal sector into the national tax net. Senior Research Officer and Tax Equity Lead at Budget Ghana, Hamid Abdel Mumuni, says widening the tax base to cover the informal economy is critical to boosting domestic revenue and bridging the shortfalls in government finances. He made the call at a 2026 pre-budget forum organized here in Accra. More in this report.
We, Budget Ghana, what we are calling for is for the government to strengthen revenue mobilization. Yes, when you look at the mid-year budget review, it came out that the projected resource mobilization or projected revenue for the mid-year was somewhere around 102.5 billion. But in actual, the outturn was just 99.3 billion. And this calls for, this represents a shortfall, which calls for more efforts in the issue of revenue mobilization. But when you look at it from this point, revenue mobilization is usually on taxes. Yes, but taxation in Ghana is set around the formal sector to the neglect of the informal sector. The informal sector also plays a major part. So if we are able to rope in the informal sector, then our deficit when it comes to resource or revenue mobilization would be sorted out. Yes, the issue is not on increasing taxes or presenting or bringing in new taxes or presenting higher taxes, but then the issue is rather on the challenge is rather on compliance, tax compliance, especially among the informal sector. So the informal sector has reservations when it comes to taxes.
Let's now pause for a breather. We'll be right back. Hello again, welcome back to Business Live. President John Mahama is making a strong case for the review of regulations in the telecom sector. Speaking at a program in Japan, the president warned that overregulating the space could kill innovation and affect efforts to deal with unemployment in the country.
It's like this sector is just about profit and all that. And so the public sector had tended to crowd out the private sector. Now everybody uses the hackneyed phrase that the private sector is the engine of growth. But how does an engine operate if you don't give it the right fuel, healthy fuel, engine oil for it to be able to operate properly? And so that's the role of the public sector. We must create policy that creates the framework for an enabling environment for the private sector to grow. The private sector is not Father Christmas. It will go where it can get a good rate of return on investment. And so it's government's duty to create the space for the public sector to exercise its creativity. And that is what we need to reorient the public sector to do. As Minister of Communications, in the early days when the tech ICT sector was exploding, and people were coming home and asking for licenses to set up internet cafes. And if you saw our regulator and the conditions you had to meet and all that, I mean, it was just crazy. I mean, by the time you go through that list, you will not be able to start anything. And so when I became minister, I said, but why license them? If you want to set up an internet cafe, why don't you just open it if you have the investment? And when we did, internet cafes exploded across the country. They didn't cause any harm. They didn't lead to any coup d'etat, nothing. When we're liberalizing our telecom space, they said, oh, telecom is so important. You cannot give it to the private sector. You know, it's sensitive. The CIA would listen into our conversations and all that. I mean, today, look at the telecom sector. It's contributing so much to the GDP of Africa's growth. So what we need to do is to create the right environment for the young people to thrive. We should not over-regulate. I met with the fintechs last year during the campaign, and I was asking them, what are your problems? And they said, over-regulation. Why don't you ease it up so that we can invest more? And so I think that we must not be too sensitive in guarding and trying to regulate and all that. We must create the space so that these young people can exercise their creative talents and contribute to sustainable growth in our countries.
From Japan, let me take you to South Africa, where Goldfields has announced that it will hand over the diamond mines to government in April next year. Goldfields in July this year requested for a 12-month lease extension after the expiration of the current mining agreement for the diamond mine. Now, Mike Fraser is the Group Chief Executive of Goldfields and has been speaking from Johannesburg, South Africa, in a conference call with investors and journalists.
In respect to Damang is that we have around 2,500 employees that come to work at Damang, that depend on Damang for their livelihoods, and we have a community of Damang around us of approximately 30,000 people that live in that community that depend on Damang mines. So we've always been really mindful. Goldfields has been, in my mind, a very good steward of that asset for a long period of time. We've got a very good reputation in our communities. People have really grown and benefited from our presence in Damang. But it's now time for the next horizon. And I think with our finding the relationship with the new administration, we've now really got a good pathway forward for Damang. And I think it bodes well for how we set Tarkwa up for future success as well, having worked through this alignment on the position in respect to Damang. So I feel very confident that we've got to the very right outcomes. And as you know, we don't always start aligned, but I think we have found some really good alignment with respect to Damang, and the people that will benefit from it are the employees and communities who should be the ultimate beneficiaries of the resource of Damang. We've got to Damang, and equally what's most important for us is that Damang is a sustainable, vibrant mine going forward. And for us to do that and be able to sustain the jobs that are dependent on Damang mine and the communities that benefit from it, is that we are going to ensure that we responsibly transition this mine as a going concern to a new operator. For us to do that, we are working with a transition committee to ensure that the mine gets transitioned appropriately. But what we are also doing, as I said, is completing this feasibility study so that we actually have a plan for how we're going to extend the life of the mine. And that is something that is being done in alignment with the Minerals Commission and the Government of Ghana. Is exactly that, is to preserve those jobs of the employees at Damang mine. And that is why this feasibility study on the life extension is so crucial, that we can actually provide that pathway for the future life of Damang. But the underlying case and the principle of what we're working to is a transition of this asset as a going concern so that that business can continue past the end of our lease in April of 2026. And that's what we're all working towards, to ensure the continuity of this business.
And back home in Ghana, you can get more stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. I am Pius Kojobaka, grateful serving you. Beyond the Numbers is next.